So this professional learning was originally developed by North Lanarkshire Council, hence the reason we've got Mary Jane and Ryan here today, and it was their response to the promise. The West Partnership Promise Working Group and myself at Education Scotland and Celsus have since updated the original resources produced by North Lanarkshire Council to create a slightly more accessible and slightly shorter resource for all local authorities to use, a free resource. It was originally created, as we said, in North Lanarkshire Council by a broad range of staff to support children and young people who are care experienced and to support them on their journey through the early years, school, and even beyond. So everyone involved in creating the original award and this refreshed award wanted to create a sort of a vehicle to raise awareness of care experienced children and young people and some of the challenges that they face. It was designed to develop our understanding around the national commitment that we've made in Scotland and by the Scottish Government, and to support local authorities to improve learning experiences and educational outcomes of our care experienced young people who said that their experience wasn't good. So this professional learning is an award, and it helps us identify our responsibilities to these learners. The award itself is a way to recognise educational settings who are striving to understand and to meet the needs of these learners and in their delivery of support to them. So the award's simple and it's straightforward. So what's the purpose of the award? Well, we knew early on that the promise was known by educational leaders in the centre of local authorities, even head teachers. But we were also aware that practitioners who are working directly with children and young people weren't always aware of the promise and what it meant for them. So how can you keep the promise if you don't know what it is? So that's why we've developed this award. We also hope that the use of the award across all settings and local authorities will support consistency. So consistency of language, consistency of messaging, and consistency of practice, and in so doing help to reduce the stigma that is often associated with care experience. So what do we aim to do with this award programme? Well, the main purpose of the award programme is generally to raise awareness and understanding of the promise. So ultimately to support inclusion of care experienced children and young people and to improve their outcomes. We wanted to highlight that care experienced learners have potentially additional support needs legally and in reality, and also to highlight some of the challenges that they face that could impact on their ability to access or engage in learning. What we've done in the award is we've sort of highlighted our responsibilities, the people who work with children and young people, who are care experienced, our responsibilities under the promise, and as corporate parents, or we're going to refer to it as good parents, to ensure that they have the best experience when they're in education. We wanted to support the workforce to know how that they can contribute to the positive changes for care experienced children and young people, both on an individual level, but also collectively, say, for example, at an educational setting level or across a service or a resource. And finally, this award programme provides a little bit of formal recognition to anybody doing it. So for an individual or a setting who successfully completes the professional learning. So now I'm going to hand over to Mary Jane, who's going to tell you a little bit about the design of the programme.
Thank you, Janine. The design of this award lends itself to being used in any educational setting for staff who work with children and young people, and also it can be delivered quite flexibly, in our opinion. Examples of this could be on in service days when all your staff are together, delivered as a whole staff training or a collegiate activity, perhaps also if you're working across a cluster. It could be professional learning for individual staff as part of their CLPL or as part from their PRD discussions, or any other three letters that want to go together here, or perhaps as an induction training for new staff members or probationary teachers, something which we in North Lanarkshire's virtual school have looked at within our own team, going back to the original award, for new staff who have joined us. Thank you. So the structure of the award, as mentioned, is a professional learning for all staff who have contact with children and young people, and there is a hope and an expectation that over time, all staff would be able to undertake this training and complete the award. Sorry, Janine, I'm thinking that we've missed a slide here. Yes, sorry. I'll just go back a little bit. So as mentioned, the professional learning is for all staff who have contact with children and young people, and we're hoping and expecting to some degree that all staff, that's everyone in the school, would undertake the training or complete the award. And the aim is to have that consistent message and the shared understanding for everyone within the building. Not just the teachers in front of the classes, but anyone else who comes into contact with that child or young person and their families, making sure that the message is consistent and the approach is consistent. Okay, thank you. So the structure of the award. So the Keeping the Promise Award is arranged in 3 parts. The first 2 parts are presentations, which are scripted and soon to be narrated, and each one takes around about an hour to deliver. Our view is that these would be best delivered to all staff together, potentially as mentioned at an inset day or as a whole staff development workshop perhaps. The reason for this is that it allows the presenter to stop at any particular moment to encourage some discussions or perhaps input an activity specific to the individual context of the school, the group or the cluster. However, it's not a problem if this can't happen. The presentations still work extremely well if viewed by an individual as part of their CLPL or CPD. The third part is the e-learning module, which includes a knowledge check. This part is for completion by individuals. Again, it's fairly short and the knowledge check is in the form of a quiz. It takes less than an hour to complete. And you would really, the basic score is 7 out of 10. We've been quite generous, 7 out of 10 to be able to pass that. So 2 sessions plus the e-learning module, that's the part that's individual. I'm going to pass over to Ryan just now for some information around the resources.
Thank you. So in terms of the resources, there is 2 presentations that come with complete scripts for every side, so that the presenters who are using those presentations are going back to what Mary Jane said about that consistent language, the consistent message that is coming across throughout the presentations. The link to the knowledge check and the quiz is in the information and guidance document, and later on in the PowerPoint, Janine will actually point out specifically where that is, and we've asked that each setting establishment keeps a record of who is completing the award, so that you can apply for the correct awards, I Promise or the We Promise. Again, the main thing there is no prep involved. Everything is provided for you. The school can just pick it up and use it. And going back to that message again about the consistent approach, the consistent language that's used as well. This award does exemplify some of the core principles of the promise and the fact that we need to listen to what matters to the children and the young people. So we bring their voice into the training by using films of care experienced young people. In particular, this one is from Inverclyde, and how they feel that the language of care and why it needs to change. And Janine's just going to play us that video just now.
Language is important, language is powerful. For care experienced kids, language matters. I think the language used in a care setting is important because depending on what words you use is going to impact how that young person feels. So by using certain words, they might make young people feel more like a number or an object or a thing rather than a person, or they may feel like they've done something, they're in the wrong or done something wrong just because of the terminology used.
I think it's important because depending on what language that you say, you might upset the people around you. sometimes if you've came from a different house, or like if you've just came from your house from your mum and your dad, and with the language they use in a different setting, like in a unit or a new home, it might make you feel not wanted with the language they use. And I think it's important, just by the way some people talk with the words they use with everybody, and sometimes it can make you feel bad about yourself.
Some say placement, we prefer where we live.
Some say unit, we prefer house.
Some say parent, we prefer my guardian.
Some say care plan, we prefer future plan.
Some say respite, we prefer having a break.
Some say daily logs, we prefer my diary.
Some say contact, we prefer family time.
Some say siblings, we prefer brothers and sisters.
The words I'd like to change would be the words lack and tack, because the word lack, if people don't understand the meaning behind it, they may feel like they're lacking in something, or they're done something, when that's not necessarily the case. I felt a bit upset when the word lack and tack was used about me, because I felt like I did something wrong, because I didn't understand, as no one had explained to me what these words meant.
I would like the word unit to be changed, as I live there and it's my home, and whenever I get packages I need to state that it's a unit and not a home. It made me upset because it's where I live. I've been living there for 8 years. I don't classify it as a unit anymore, I classify it as my house.
I think the words I'd like to see change is in care, because sometimes when somebody says in care to me, it makes me feel as if I'm different from everybody else. So I think it should be changed to care experience instead of in care.
These were just some examples of words we would like to change. There are others too, like abscond, hearing, community time and safeguarding.
I think it's important for people to notice, for the children, with the words they use, that sometimes it can make them feel upset, like with some words they use, as it might not be what they're used to.
Language is important, language is powerful. Does language matter to you?
Nothing about us without us.
And I think that is a key message of the promise as well. Language is so important, and that is coming from the young people. So some of the language that we heard in the film, it is so ingrained in how we talk and how we write about care experienced children and young people, and that will take time to change. However, I think we need to start to realise the ambition of ensuring that all children, and particularly those of care experience, should grow up to feel loved, safe and respected. And language is one way that we can help or harm, and I think this coordinated approach and getting it right and reducing the stigma for our care experienced young people. Janine is going to show us how we find the resources, so I'm just going to pass back on to Janine.
Thank you very much, Ryan. So where to find the resources? If we send you out after this presentation, we'll send you out a follow-up email which will have a PDF of this presentation in it, in which case you can get the live links. But we will also put it in the chat today, the live links to the resources. So all of the resources, that the two presentations, the link to the e-learning module and the little quiz that you do at the end, are all on the Education Scotland website, accessed through this link. But even if you go into the Education Scotland website and just type in the search engine, Keeping the Promise Award, it will come up as your first hit and you can go into it and get the resources. Okay. So just to tell you a very, very, very quick rundown on what each of the presentations have. In session 1, it covers really the national context, the terminology, which is quite confusing between looked after and care experienced, and in different settings, what that means. A little bit about the national data, but also gives you an opportunity to put in local data if you have that. A little bit about corporate parenting, which we start to refer to as good parenting because it's not a label that care experienced children and young people generally like. We talk about the promise, how it came about and what's in it. Then we refer to, because all of this, for our particular sector, we're obviously supporting children and young people who have care experience, but we particularly want to support them in terms of their educational outcomes. So we share what some of those educational outcomes are. And then we finish off with what do some of the promises mean in terms of our practice in terms of education. So I'll just give you a quick look at what some of the slides look like. Of course, there's a script with every single slide. So somebody who's delivering this to a school or to a group of practitioners do not have to be experts themselves because we do give you a script. So we tell you a little bit about the promise, about the educational outcomes, and these are just a very small selection of some of the slides. So in session 2, we move on to what do all children and young people need, and then how do we support those needs? And throughout the presentation, we exemplify why that's even more important for a care experienced young person. So that presentation will help you with working with all the children that you work with, but it will disproportionately help you for working with care experienced children and young people. So it is things like a very brief look at trauma, brief look at risk factors to well-being and learning, a little bit about brain development, moving on to things like what are the positive things that support resilience, linking into other pieces of learning that you probably have already done about nurture, bringing the young people into it about what they say they need, what do we do and what can we do in the future, and then we finally finish off with every child needs a champion. So this is a little bit about some of those presentations. We look at one good adult, and I'll actually just link this through because we're trying to take this to a level that it appeals to everybody who hears it. So when we say about everybody who's working with a child in an educational setting, we do mean the people that the children choose, and that's often one of the cleaning staff, like some of the catering staff, somebody from the office or the janitor, and not just pupil support assistants and teachers. So again, we bring this to life from the words of children and young people.
Sometimes I just think it's hard to control and manage my anger, but makeup takes me away from that. It makes me forget about it.
I never really believed in myself, but things are different now.
When I feel stressed, I like to go to the basketball court.
I'm the youngest in my family, but my big brother's always there to help me.
Sometimes life can get me down, but dance helps me escape.
I really enjoy cooking, it really cheers me up.
Friends are really important to me. They're only a phone call away.
We all have difficult times in our lives, but it's good to talk to someone.
Somebody you can trust that will be there for you no matter what.
Someone you can talk to, someone you can depend on.
Having a supportive adult in our life is good for our well-being.
I get some good advice I can trust.
When times get tough, it's always good to talk to a supportive adult.
Got a good relationship with my mum. She's a good listener.
My big cousin's always there for me, no matter what.
I get lots of praise, which really helps my confidence.
I can tell them anything and never get judged.
My supportive adult helps me with coping strategies.
She makes me feel safe and valued.
Talking to someone can really help you work out your problems to get the support you need.
I'm a lot happier now. Life is more positive.
Remember, there's always someone to talk to. Talk to a supportive adult. Who might yours be?
So that is a really powerful video, and it was produced by the NHS in Glasgow and Greater Clyde. And you can see the advantage to using it with the people who work with children and young people in a school, because they will choose who that supportive adult is. Just some of the other slides in the second session, which would be useful across lots of contexts, just to raise awareness of some of the challenges that all children face, but are particularly relevant to care experienced children and young people. So that's just a very, very brief overview and a few examples of the slides that we have in the two presentations. But we did say that rounding it off, when you do that, hopefully collectively as teams within your settings, we have an e-learning module, and that e-learning module there could be completed quite quickly, because it's a little bit of a revision with a little bit more information of what you've learned in the two presentations, but it also provides links and opportunities if you want to know more. So if you want to know a little bit more about trauma and trauma-based approaches, you can go into one of the NHS brief videos from that e-learning module. So literally you use it as much or as little as you like, but certainly it will guide you through to the finish of the award programme, which is a little knowledge and information check. So the knowledge and information check, as we said before, all of these resources, including this information and structure summary guidance, is on the Education Scotland website. You just download them, and you can find the link to the knowledge check within the those resources that are on the website. So everything's available there to you, ready to use and go. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, a number of local authorities, a number of individual schools, and a number of settings, like for example educational psychology departments, family learning groups, etc., have already come to us and said, can we try it with our staff? We would like to get in there nice and early before you've even launched it. So we have a number of groups who have already done that and have already come back to us with some feedback. And you'll see here on the left hand side of a slide across, the Northern Alliance decided to introduce this to the staff in the Northern Alliance local authorities by doing a sort of a train the trainer session, very, very similar to this, to bring people along and make them aware of the award system. And some of the things that they said that they would go away was they were going away with a strength and commitment to the promise in the work that they do within their school, an enthusiasm to go back and start to see how can we in our setting develop the promise. So those were the sorts of messages that came through from those presentations. In the middle, you'll see in Clackmannanshire, they've already delivered some of this training in their schools. And these were some quotes that came back from people who had participated in the training in their schools as in-service training. And it's rare when you see some of these quotes that I hear that in-service training is enjoyable, but that seems to be a repeated phrase that's used in the feedback that we're getting from staff who have done this as in-service training. And the final little sets of quotes are, one little primary school has already completed the award for the whole school. They've got all their staff to complete the two training sessions, the e-learning module and the quiz, and they've already started to ask the children and young people within the school, what can we do to support you? They were given things that the children said that they would like to do, and they've set up a number of groups and activities for the children. And these are just some of the quotes from the children who have already started to participate in those activities that they directed, but as a result of learning about their promise and knowing that we need to do maybe a little bit more for our care experienced young people. So now I think I am passing over to Mary Jane again, who's going to tell you a little bit about the badges, which we've already mentioned.
Thank you, Janine. So there are there's outcomes at 3 levels for the Keeping the Promise Award. So individually, know you've heard us mention that already. There's the I Promise Award on completion of the course. And remember, the course is the 2 presentations, the e-module and the knowledge check quiz. For educational settings or other settings, there's the We Promise Award. And you can see the requirements are for all staff to have participated in or viewed the presentations, and a minimum of 70%. And we thought we were being quite generous there. 70% of staff to have successfully completed the e-learning module and the knowledge check. Then to achieve and receive the full Keeping the Promise Award, educational settings should be able to demonstrate how they are making a positive difference to the outcomes for their care experienced learners. How are they demonstrating impact? The I Promise and We Promise Award badges and certificates will be provided for leadership teams to distribute, and Education Scotland will issue the Keeping the Promise Award when presented with the evidence of the impact. Okay, can we move on? So this is what it looks like, and we know that all of us, in particular our schools, it's not a flag, but we do like a shiny certificate or a badge. So here are the examples of the badges or certificates. So the badges for both the I Promise and We Promise are for both the I Promise and the We Promise Awards. The badges can be placed at the end of emails, so electronically alongside your signature, and will indicate to recipients that that individual or educational setting has made a promise to their care experienced children and young people. Badges can also be added to school communications, handbooks or web pages. There are also printable certificates for the We Promise and Keeping the Promise Awards, which could be displayed in the foyer of schools, because we all know that we like to turn up and see what's happening in that school and how many flags and how many certificates are up on the wall. So obviously that, and the Keeping a Promise Award, the full award, as I mentioned, is sent out by Education Scotland, the space for the school to be in it. I see that there's a question there, and I think we've got some time at the end for questions that we'll come back to, if that's all right. I am going to pass over to Ryan for a quick summary around the award and all of what we've been talking about today.
Thank you, Mary Jane. So we will, in Education Scotland, will be providing resources such as the exemplars of the implementation models and guidance, and that's via the Education Scotland website. So that's also updated as well, so it's good to keep checking if you're ever using these resources in the future. Although it's created for the education workforce, a wee bit of adaptation there. This professional learning could also be used for other children's services settings. So we are really hoping, obviously, that the award programme will be used by every educational setting and in every local authority, because obviously coverage in this situation would be king. The local authorities can add the resources to their professional learning platforms if they have that set up already. But obviously we ask to, again, as I said, check back regularly onto the Education Scotland website for any updates on the resources, as they have been even since it kind of was established. There are changes all the time, as you can understand, in education setting. So Education Scotland will hopefully try and notify local authorities when it has been refreshed or anything has been added, so that you are kept up to date with that. And you might be pleased to know that we're at near the end just now. So the formal presentation and recording will be coming to an end just now. So if there are any questions, like I've seen there was one in the chat there, we'll be stopping the recording just now so that you can maybe come onto the screen if you want and relax a little bit. We will be here until around about 5 PM if there are any questions that need to be answered. If you can also be, if you're heading off quickly, then you can also please fill out the evaluation form, which is on the screen just now. So you can either go into the chat or you can scan your QR code if you've got your phone handy or another device handy there. And it's just to be aware on question 6, could you please make sure that you're explaining that it's the Keeping the Promise Award or the KTPA aware award if you're filling that part in, so we know that that's what this information session was about. We also have the chat as well. If there's anything that, if you're looking to go in and get the information about the presentation, the scripts, and the programme, you can go in there. I think Janine has put the link in there already. But yes, if there are any questions, you're welcome to come on the screen.
Thank you very much, Ryan and Mary Jane, if you want to bring yourself back up on the screen. And thank you very much for Fiona to give us our very first question. And it actually is a very easy one to answer. So absolutely, you can adapt it to the language that you would use, say, for example, in an early learning and childcare setting or in a nursery. And in actual fact, we were just talking about this before we came on to the presentation. And I'm going to ask Mary Jane to come in on that in just a second in the context that she was talking about. But we already have across a number of local authorities, and we hope to upload these onto the same Education Scotland website. So we've had requests from, for example, family learning settings, where could we adapt the presentation and to a family learning audience. So we would put in things like the family learning standards and how they overlap with the things that the Promise are asking us to do, and they completely do. So we've already got Aberdeen City who are doing that and developing that resource. So eventually we will put that onto the website. We've also got Dumfries and Galloway who are rolling this into a family learning social work resource and a sort of training package. So the Keeping the Promise work will be part of it. We've got Aberdeen City are also, they've already just delivered a version of this for youth service workers across their setting. And we've also had requests from colleges and universities to adapt it to both their students that they have, say, for example, nursing students, social care students, students that are going to go on and become teachers or educational psychologists or anything, any profession that works with children and young people, but also for their staff. So we've had multiple asks. Also, the NHS have asked, can they adapt the resources for their health promotion teams? So NHS Lanarkshire are looking to do that as well. So ultimately, what we know on the website, you will have versions that might suit your setting a little bit more. So